Yes, people, and welcome to a brand new podcast on the Billy Talksball channel. But disregard that, it is the Offside Trap, and today we are joined with Big P, Dan, and Doctor. Big P, I'm going to come to you first. Say hello. How are you feeling?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Massive West Ham fan, so I'm looking forward to getting started.
Dan?
Evening, everyone. Hope everyone's good. Liverpool fan. Looking forward to the cup final tomorrow. Hopefully, just one of 4 bits of silverware we bring home this season.
And last but not least, Doctor.
Evening, everyone. Massive Crystal Palace fan. Really looking forward to getting started with the show. It's been a long time in the making. Let the party commence.
Now, I'll go straight into it, boys. Straight into it. Aston Villa 4, Nottingham Forest 2. Did we see it coming? You know, their games, their run of games at home hasn't been exactly decent lately. So, was that something that we expected? At the end of the day, you've got, with Villa Park now getting a win under their belt. P, I'll come to you first. What's your thoughts on Villa winning?
I think Villa needed a game like this, really. As you said, they've struggled at home of late, but playing against a poor Forest side, they've gone back to their old ways, so to speak. And can Unai Emery carry it on now to the end of the season? I'm not too sure whether he will be looking at their fixtures coming up, but it's a good starting point for them and back on track.
Dan?
Yeah, just echo what Big P said. They have struggled a little bit as of late. It's like P said, much needed fixture in terms of the sort of opposition who are playing. Obviously, back to the best today. Scored 4 goals. They'll be disappointed to concede 2, especially in the manner that they did, but positive nonetheless.
And finally, Doctor, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree Villa have been a bit of a surprise with their rise in fortunes this season so far. They've had a little blip as of late. These home games are going to be crucial for them if they want to push on for that top 4 and actually stay in there. So, did I see it coming? Yeah, I think I did, if I'm totally honest. Just score says it's quite convincing. The possession says it's quite convincing. But like Dan said, if they want to push on, they can't be giving 2 goals away against some of these good teams because it could be vital.
Now, I'm going to ask each of you the question. Where do we think Villa are actually going to finish this year? Do we think that they're going to make it to the top 4? Do you think they're going to just fall outside, or do you think they're probably going to drop off a cliff and go back down to 7th or 8th? So, Doc, I'll stop. Go on, P.
I think looking at their fixtures, they've got a tough run of games coming up from now till the end of the season. I'm going to say top 5 for me, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did finish in that top 4. But again, it is a tough set of fixtures for them coming up.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of been a little bit of a surprise package, I guess, in many ways. But then again, Unai Emery is a really accomplished manager. He's achieved a lot. For me, achieving top 4 will be a massive achievement, particularly when we consider who they've gone up against. I just think they're probably 2 or 3 injuries away from really struggling. I think they've got a really strong 11, but then when you take 2 or 3 players out of that team, Douglas Luiz, Ollie Watkins, Matty Cash, crucial players and fundamental to how Emery sets up. We'll see. But yeah, like Pete said as well, they have got a very tough run in. I think 5th, 6th, that can be considered a success, I think, for Villa, to be honest.
Yeah. And Doc, where do you see Villa finishing this season?
I think the boys have summed it up perfectly for me. I think they'll be disappointed now if they don't secure some aspects of European football with how far they've come. But I think at the beginning of the season, I think if you sort of suggested to any true Aston Villa fan, a European spot this year, I think they'd have to have taken that. So I think that, like the boys have said, football's a funny old one, isn't it? And we just don't know what teams are going to like produce against them and what performances they're going to put in. I think the highlight for me with Villa this year was the one against City. I think they looked really, really solid in that game. And if they can find that form and deliver that form, then there's no reason why they can't keep up holding that form. Unfortunately, I've just got a funny feeling that there's going to be a few more blips along the way and they're going to probably slip down to 5th or 6th.
Yeah. Moving on to the comments just quickly before we move on to the next game. Tabrice is in the chat. He's ready. He's on it. He loves it. And then he's also gone on to say that it was a great win for Villa. So that is that for
Evening
now.
to Bruce.
Good evening, mate.
Good evening.
Nice to see you watching along to you.
Moving on to probably the most boring game. Brighton and Everton. 1-1. I don't know if you lot have seen it or if you watched it, but all I can go off is the stats. I didn't watch it personally, but with an XG of like 0.27 or whatever for Everton and an XG of 0.7 for Brighton, it's definitely a concerning one. Do you think? Firstly, I want to highlight De Zerbi. Do we all think that he's going to be in the job for much longer with his poor sort of results? I would say as of late, but realistically, it hasn't been as of late, has it? It's been quite poor throughout the season. So, what's your thoughts?
For me, the game wasn't exciting from what I see of it. 2 fantastic finishes by 2 good centre halves, and obviously there was a red card in there with Billy Gilmore. Now, is De Zerbi still? I think Brighton are one of these sides that like to stick with their managers and try and get out the other side. They're not rash in just going around sacking managers. Some people will say they overachieved last season with Europe. This season, they're still in Europe. They got an exciting tie in Roma. So I think they'll stick with De Zerbi and try and pick up points where they can. But again, Everton, for me, I think Dyche's done a decent job. Without the 10 points being deducted, they'd be a lot higher than what they are. But it's another point away from the relegation zone for them, isn't it?
No. Dan?
Yeah, I think De Zerbi, I think he's got enough credit in the bank, to be fair. I know he's not been there all that long, but if you have a look at what he's achieved so far whilst being in charge, for me, he's got enough credit in the bank. He deserves to be given time, get through this bit of a sticky period. I think there's no doubt that he will go on to be a really good manager, probably move on to a bigger club in the next few years. I think it's a bit early at the minute. I think Brighton's the right sort of project for him. But yeah, I think Brighton will be doing the right thing if they manage to stick by him and give him the time that they need. I mean, ultimately, you look at where Brighton were not even a decade ago. I mean, I don't think any Brighton fans are going to be complaining that they're having a bit of a difficult time in the Premier League at the minute.
Yeah. And Doc, what's your thoughts on, firstly, the result, but mainly, De Zerbi?
So the game itself, it does look like, I haven't watched it myself. I was a bit busy watching a couple of the other games. But it looks like, they've had 64% possession. They've had 23 shots on target. 23 shots and 7 shots on target. So if you look at the stats, it looks like they've been quite dominant in the game. The most ironic thing is they were 1-0 down until, I believe it was the 93rd minute, was it, when the goal was given?
Yeah, I think it may have even been 95th.
Yeah, so... with that sort of dominance, you shouldn't be scraping a point at the end. So it sounds to me like it's been a bad day at the office for them. They haven't been that creative, and they certainly haven't took their chances with clear-cut chances that they have created out of the amount of shots that they've had. With regards to the manager himself, I think the league doesn't lie, does it? At the end of the day, they're still up there. They're in Europe. They've had some great performances in Europe. So I don't think he's got to worry about losing his job. And I also think the bigger picture with him is he's being linked with jobs in any case. So if Brighton don't see him as the long-term fix, it would still make sense for me to keep hold of him and try and get some compensation, like if he goes, at the end of the season. So I don't see him losing his job before then.
Yeah. Another thing I want to highlight with the Brighton-Everton game, as much as obviously... me personally, I'm going to criticise the club of Brighton because they've taken so much of my club's money. It has been actually ludicrous. But 11 home matches undefeated now at the Amex Stadium. Is it turning into one of those away days? P, I'll start with you.
I don't know. Brighton have always been tough to beat down there. So 11 games unbeaten is a stat that surprises me a little bit when you think of the pressure that he is under. But I think they'll kick on. Ultimately, they will kick on and see where they finish up at the end of the season. I think they're in for a top 10 finish, aren't they? Let's be honest. It's just whether they can juggle Europe and the Premier League.
Dan?
It's just, I mean, I think the main thing Brighton have struggled with this season, obviously, I know they're really good at home, or at least in terms of avoiding defeat. They're inconsistent. You kind of go up against Brighton, you don't really know what you're in for, to be fair. You could perhaps be in for a bit of a walkover job, but by the very same token, they could really turn up and really, really cause you some proper problems. I think defensively, they need to shore up. I think they've conceded in every game in the Premier League this season. If not, there's only one or two in which they haven't conceded. That kind of tells its own story. But yeah, like I said before, De Zerbi, give him time, back him in the summer, and let's see what he can do.
And finally, Doc, this 11 games undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, 11 games undefeated. You know, that's impressive, isn't it? That's what the core home fans want to see. You know, that's what they pay their money for. That's where the main fans are going to be in force. Yes, obviously, when you go in on an away day, you know, you want to see a good performance, but it's the home record that's going to be like the pinnacle of the points collectively over the year for most clubs. I would imagine. So you can't take anything away from that record, really, can you? 11 home wins is still quite impressive. I still think personally, if they don't secure European football this year, then I think we could see a blip next season, and I hope so.
Yeah. Quickly, just before we move on from the game, we're just going to check back into the comments. Martin Smith coming in, big up, guys. And then also Fabrice coming back in. Brighton will be okay, still finish higher than Palace. Right. Fabrice loves in Doc's face already.
The constant torment, and I love it.
Moving on to the next game, probably the biggest upset of the night, I'd say. Fulham going to Old Trafford and taking 3 points away from them. Pete, I'm going to start with you. Really, firstly, did you see it coming? And secondly, are Fulham going to be taken more seriously after this result?
I wouldn't say Fulham are not taken seriously. Did I see it coming? No, I didn't. But it just goes back to the old saying of Man United's main striker has got injured and they're struggling to score goals again. Now he's out till the middle of March, I believe. So if I was a United fan, I'd be quite worried to see where our goals are going to come from or their goals are going to come from. But it's a great result for Fulham. Ultimately, they've gone up there. From what I've seen of the game, the majority of the game was Man United, and they've snuck 2 goals in up there and come away with the 3 points. And again, for them, it's a massive result.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I saw this result coming, but I mean, it's kind of been a symptom of post-Fergie syndrome with Manchester United. You kind of get so far, and then teams who kind of push on and go to that next level, they eliminate these sort of results. They're a lot more consistent, and obviously over the years, manager after manager, team after team, this has just happened time and time again. I think P's just kind of touched on it in regard to the scoring goals, but as a Manchester United fan, or if I was a Manchester United fan, should I say, I'd be extremely frustrated because it kind of looks like, how are we going to get to that next level and stop this from happening? It doesn't seem to be a solution. Whether it be manager, whether it be money spent in the transfer market, getting to that next level and pushing on from where they are at the moment, there just seems to be something preventing that.
Yeah. Finally, Doc, what's your thoughts on it?
I think the most worrying thing for Man United isn't whether us 4 would have seen it coming or not. I think the majority of the Man United fans that I've spoken to this week leading into this game, they actually did see it coming. And that's the biggest concern for me, that Man United fans at home are actually talking like a couple of injuries and they see a Fulham going there and winning. Now, we've all been brought up on a Man United team that, you know, they could pick up 5 or 6 injuries and they still have more than enough at home. Something's obviously massively changed there where, the Vieira dreams is now the Vieira nightmares for a lot of the Man United fans. And that's the biggest worry for them. But I do think with Radcliffe coming in and the changes that's coming already, I do think we'll see the real Man United back. Maybe not as soon as a lot of fans would like, but I can foresee them coming back. And it's quite ironic that Pep has actually spoke out about he sees them coming back as well now. So we'll see.
To Bruce putting in a great comment here. It's quite an interesting one because I feel like partly Ten Hag hasn't been given the time, but then again, he in his first season, he won a League Cup and did get top 4. So maybe he's earned a bit more of a backing. But yeah, Doc, I'm actually going to start with you on this one. Is Ten Hag the right man for the job?
For me personally, no, he's not. I've said it from the get-go, and nothing I've seen has changed my mind. I don't think he was the right appointment in the first place. I think that the Cup and the top 4 finish last year with the blip of a couple of other teams was sort of like papering over the cracks. And at the end of the day, after achieving what he achieved last year, United needed to kick on. And for me, they've gone backwards this year. And I think that that's the worrying sign. 18 months in a job now, and they seem to be going backwards, not forwards. And I just can't see Radcliffe sticking with him for much longer. I think if he doesn't push for that top 4 this year, then I think ultimately he will be replaced in the summer.
Yeah. And Dan, do you see Ten Hag being the right man for United?
It's a difficult one, really. We have a look at the managers that they've had in post-Ferguson, and they've had some really big names in managers who have accomplished a lot. Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, and obviously for one reason or another, it hasn't worked out for them. I think, given the fact that there's going to be infrastructural changes at Manchester United at the moment, in the near future, Ten Hag deserves an opportunity to remedy the problems. But one thing I will be very mindful in terms of the new ownership plan that's about to unfold is the money that's being spent and kind of the Ten Hag's talent ID. I mean, 80 million on the likes of Anthony. It's absolute blasphemy. That it's wild.
Yeah. And P, come on.
For me, it's more of the question of who is the right man for their job, because I'm starting to look at the players that play for Man United and not the manager, because I've had several managers there. We've all hit on that. But it seems to be a player power thing at Man United at the moment. That's where the avenue that I would go down is sort of let's have a look at our players instead of our manager. I think he's a good manager. Ultimately, I do think he's a good manager. Give him the time. I do agree with Dan with his IQ on transfers. It is a bit questionable. But yeah, I think he is the right manager. Give him some time and he'll be all right.
Would you take him at West Ham, P?
Yeah, 100%.
One of the things that I find a bit fascinating with Erik ten Hag, and you don't really see it with top managers, is that he's working with players that he's previously worked in before. So obviously he does trust them, but it's like, how much are you able to adapt, sort of thing? I mean, obviously he's working with Onana now, had him at Ajax. Anthony, obviously big money. Crucial signings, big money signings. How much are you able to adapt? We don't really see the likes of Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp doing that. So yeah, it's how he seems to differ really in his approach in terms of how he recruits players.
For me personally, though, with Ten Hag, it's not the results or even necessarily the position that's the worrying factor. It's the identity. If they were playing fluently week in, week out, trying to show what they're made of, I'd understand a little bit more. But for me, Man United on the pitch every week, they just look a shambles.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Bill, what do you think? Anyway, right man, or you think they should be looking to get rid of him?
I think you raised the question that's more important is who is the manager. I think realistically, if you're looking at it, they have had the managers in the past who have gone in there, and I think this is probably the worst caliber of players or the worst United squad we've seen in a long time. Even going back to Van Gaal or Mourinho, like Fellaini or Morgan Schneiderlin, they were never good footballers, but they still seem to they still play for the badge. They still seem to want to put it on, and it seems like it's getting more and more like the players don't care anymore.
But they also finished third and won a cup last year. So
I think it ties into what. Go on, Doc. Sorry.
I was going to say, let's not pretend like, that he's brought in a load of new players and they haven't gelled. This is the same team that they achieved as a club last year, and yet they're not achieving the same things this year. So for me personally, blaming the players, I don't think players become bad players overnight. I think what players happen is managers overstep the mark and managers do certain things that the players start thinking, do you know what? I'm not gonna run through walls for this manager. I'll give him a performance, but I'm not going to give it my all. And I think that's what you're seeing at United, personally.
Yeah. Moving swiftly on now to a game that doesn't need to be spoken about. I mean, there is a few impressive points to it, but we all saw it coming. Man City going to Bournemouth and getting the 3 points. Firstly, I'm not going to pretend like, we were in a chat yesterday talking about it. I mean, I was one of the advocates to say City were going to go and absolutely spank them one, absolutely wallop them, and to walk away with only 1-0 and a Bournemouth actually are quite unlucky to not get a point from this. Pete, what's your thoughts overall with the Bournemouth City game?
I think the first half was predominantly City. They run away with it in the first half, and for me, the second half is a performance of champions. It wasn't all City. Bournemouth come back into the game now. For me, I would look at how far Bournemouth have come as a club. They went to the Etihad and got spanked 6-1. And today they've only lost 1-0. I know they're at home. It's a lot smaller ground. But Bournemouth excite me. They're a good side. He's doing a good job there. I do think they were unlucky. They had a few chances. And I think against the bigger clubs, City would have been punished. And I don't think City are the same City of last year. I don't know what's gone on there, whether it's the injuries that have affected them, but look, they've still won the game. They've got 3 points, and that's what champions do, isn't it? It just makes for an exciting end of the season with obviously Liverpool and Arsenal being 2 points behind and 3 points behind. But yeah, I'm excited. But for me,
do you think when you say they're not the same team, do you think it's like the tank's gone a bit empty with them winning the treble last year? Do you think like they're not as hungry as what they were?
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if it's hunger, but I'd look at sort of the fatigue side of it now. Are they starting to run out of legs? You look at City's bench tonight, it's worth more than the whole of the Bournemouth squad. Do you know what I mean? If Grealish was on there, De Bruyne was on there, Kyle Walker was on there, Alvarez was on there, just them players alone. Do you know what I mean? I just think they're running out of legs and maybe the fatigue starting to set in, and they're still in all their competitions. Do you know what I mean? Other than the Carabao Cup, but they're still in all the competitions that they've got left to compete for, and it's got to take its toll on a squad like that, hasn't it? It has.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched the game, and I thought City were really fortunate, to be honest, to get away with the 3 points. That second half, it just seemed to be like wave after wave after wave of Bournemouth attack. They just couldn't put together the final piece. I mean, they had a couple of chances. They had one kind of cleared off the line or saved on the line by Edison. But yeah, it kind of looked like a little bit of an inevitability that Bournemouth were going to score. Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I was kind of trying to shout the ball into the net. But yeah, City hung on. You got to be resilient when things get difficult if you're going to win the league. But yeah, I think they can definitely consider themselves really fortunate. But yeah, just a quick one. Phil Foden, 30 goal contributions this year. Averages a goal contribution every 115 minutes. For me, he's absolutely got to be not only on the plane, but yeah, he's definitely in that starting 11 for England. He's got to be.
Yeah. Doc?
I think with City, I think that let's be honest, when a team is so dominant year in, year out, everyone wants the underdog. Everyone wants to see them slip up. I think with City this year in particular, they have for the first time in a long time, looks a bit fragile and a bit vulnerable. But I would only go as far as to say vulnerable. They are very, very, you know, when they need a result, they tend to get it. And I think with City themselves, we're criticising a City team that's still winning games, and I think that speaks volumes for the side. I think they've always got a win in them. I think that they will predominantly turn it on when it matters. And I think with City, their biggest problem is they play to their opponent. If you put them in a big game, they will be up for it and they will perform. You put them in the smaller games, they just try to sort of cruise through the game and not go full throttle, so to speak. Very much looking forward to the City Liverpool game at the Anfield, because for me, that's going to be the critical one. So we shall see.
Yeah. To Breeze coming in again with another comment. What does Solanke need to do to get to that next level? I mean, P, I'll start with you on this one. What do you think Solanke needs to do?
Just keep doing what he's doing. He's scoring goals in a Bournemouth side now. There is rumours coming out of West Ham today that we've put in a club record fee for him. Now, whether that's true or not, I can't confirm that at this present minute. But if so, does he come to West Ham and score goals? I think so. I think we've got better creativity around our club than what Bournemouth have. But you have to look at his past. Did he get the opportunity at Liverpool? He's been at some big clubs, hasn't he? Let's be fair. But ultimately, you've got to be the player that fits into the right club. And maybe Bournemouth is that right club. But we'll only wait and see when he gets the move. And he will move in. He will move on in the summer.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of going to the next level, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a talented lad. Came through the Chelsea ranks, didn't he? Came through Cobham Academy, came over to Liverpool. I think he was kind of bought by Liverpool with the view to selling him on. I don't think we ever kind of looked at him as like a long-term project in terms of being an important player for us going forward. But he's kind of like, he's part of a dying breed and he's a little bit of a traditional nine. I think eventually those sort of players will be costing a premium again, just because there isn't many of them around. Like Peter said, then if you provide him with the service, he is going to score. I just don't think he's probably conducive to how a top team wants to play nowadays.
Yeah, Doc, what's your thoughts on Solanke?
I think the boys have both sort of touched on the same opinion that I've got. Can Solanke score you goals? Absolutely, 100%. But for me personally, Solanke's that player that just doesn't float my boat. He's not the sort of player that I'd want at my club. He doesn't do enough. He doesn't do enough in the games for me in the modern game. He's not, if you compare him to someone like a Watkins, if you look at how many assists Watkins does and how hard Watkins works for the team, he's the sort of striker that will, even on a bad day when he doesn't score, he will still create a chance for one of the midfielders or a strike partner. For me, I don't see that in Solanke. If Solanke's going to set someone up, it's going to be with like a flick on. I just don't see him as a big club player, in my opinion. So I just think that he's at Bournemouth. He's the main man at Bournemouth. He's going to get minutes every week at Bournemouth. I'm not suggesting that Bournemouth is his limit. I mean, I think he could do a lot worse than going to a Chelsea and helping them secure 8th this year, because we all know they're not a top 4 team anymore. So I just don't see him going to the sort of big clubs, I'm afraid. That's just my opinion.
Just a quick yes or no. Just a quick yes or no. If he carries on the way he's going for Bournemouth this year, do you see him on the plane in the summer?
Yes, he's got to be.
I think he might be third choice. I think it depends on Callum Wilson being fit or not.
Doc?
Does he go on the plane? Yes. Does he step foot on the pitch? No.
Moving on to the penultimate game. Arsenal-Newcastle 4-1. Pretty straightforward. Newcastle have been poor. They've got a lot of injuries. And Arsenal have just been absolutely killing it as of late. So I don't think the Porto game midweek, I don't think that's going to have affected them, especially with their Premier League run at home at the Emirates as well. So, yeah, there's not much really much more from me. P, what's your thoughts on it?
They were phenomenal tonight, weren't they, Arsenal? Every time they went forward, they looked like they were going to score. For me, I got a question: how long has Eddie Howe got left at Newcastle? I just, the money that they've spent, they get no European football. I know they've had Champions League this year, but if they don't even get Conference League, which is looking unlikely, if Wolves go and win tomorrow, Wolves go above Newcastle, and I think that speaks volumes. Yeah, they were poor tonight. I ain't got really much to say about it. They were that bad, but Arsenal look really good, and they will be there or thereabouts challenging.
Yeah, Dan.
I mean, the game was kind of went as you'd expect. Kind of symptom of how both teams' seasons are going. I do feel for Eddie Howe. He's had a lot of injuries, and not every team picks up injuries, but Eddie Howe and Newcastle, they've had disproportionate amount of injuries this year. Injuries to key players as well. I mean, you only have to look at who was starting in goal for them. Loris Karius, he's not played a Premier League game since 2018, which is wild, really. I don't know whether his job is in danger. Who knows? I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see how the rest of the season pans out for them, to be honest.
Yeah. And lastly, Doc, what is your thoughts on this with Arsenal battering yet another team?
Arsenal just look tremendous. Since the winter break, I think Saka's come back and he's been looking quite fresh again, as opposed to the Saka that was looking tired beforehand. Arsenal were doing what Arsenal do best, creating chances and scoring goals. I'm really disappointed in Arsenal's performance in the Champions League. It's not the fact that they lost the game 1-0. It's the fact that they didn't even create a shot on target. We're talking about a team that create chances for fun. We're talking about a team that's scoring 3 to 4 goals every week in the league at the moment. This is the same team that have took Liverpool apart recently. And they go into a Porto and they're not having a shot on target in a competition that the club really needs. So I just don't know what it is with Arsenal in the Champions League as of late. As with regards to Newcastle, I generally think Newcastle are in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. I think they're in trouble on the pitch with regards to their players not performing. I think that they're down to their bare bones. I think they've got financial fair play hanging over their heads with regards to the fact that these players were being linked to needing to be sold in January for money to be raised. That these players wasn't sold, the money wasn't raised, which is indicating to me that they could be the next club getting financial fair plays. And if Newcastle start picking up points deduction, they're going to be in a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah. Moving on now to the final game of the day and Doc's favourite subject. There he is. Look at that smile. He's already excited for it. Doc, I will leave you till last because you are going to be the man of wisdom to talk about it the most. But the game of the day is Palace versus Burnley, 3-0 win. It's probably, it's impressive, but haven't we seen this time and time again with a new manager bounce? P, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. Look, I watched Palace on Monday night when they played Everton, and I thought at times Palace played some fantastic football, but they still look vulnerable at the back and conceding goals. Now, ultimately, they went 3 at the back Monday. They've gone 3 at the back today. He's named the same side, and they've won 3-0. Now, people will say it's just Burnley, but you can only play and beat what's in front of you. For me, with the new manager, give him a couple of games and we can judge. Good manager by all accounts that's coming into the club. But I think they travel to Spurs next week, which will be a real telling sign of where they're at as a club. But a 3-0 win, nonetheless, with players like Guéhi, Eze and Elise to return. So the future's looking bright at Palace, to be fair, I think, personally.
Yeah. And Dan?
Yeah, I mean, a good start. Just to clarify, he was in charge against Everton. Was it Glasner or today was his first official game in charge? Is that right?
Today was his first game in charge, yeah.
Yeah. So a really good start. I think off the top of my head, he's on par with anyone in terms of the start to the Premier League. I know it's only very small sample size. It's only one game, but I mean, He done better than the likes of Klopp. He done better than Alex Ferguson. Done better than Conte. He's done better than a lot of managers in his first game in the Premier League. I was having a look at how today's performance matched up with Roy Hodgson's last 5 in charge. Roy Hodgson averaged 38.4% possession over the course of his last 5. Today, Crystal Palace had 56% of the ball, which tells you everything. He wants to kind of dominate with the ball, suffocate opponents. Whether or not he can do it with the personnel that he's got, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's chalk and cheese in terms of the styles. And I think once he gets to the likes of Eze back and Elise, we'll see Palace at the absolute optimum on the Glasner. 1.71 points per game over the course of his career. Promising, man. If we apply that ratio to the Premier League season, 38 games, probably gets you a return of around 65, 66 points. So, yeah, I can understand why doctors are a little bit buzzing.
And now, Doc, the man of the hour, game of the day, Palace themselves at home at Selhurst. What how are you feeling?
First and foremost, I don't want to get too carried away. I do think that Is it all about the new manager? Now, I think the new manager can take a lot of credit for today, a lot of credit. But I just think that when you're at home, when you take the negativity away from the fans, when you take away Palace's best asset, which is our home support, I think a lot of managers would struggle. So with Roy Hodgson towards the end of his tender, the fans have turned. The fans didn't want him there anymore, and the fans wanted a change. So first and foremost, I think that we was always going to get a better performance today. Do I believe Roy Hodgson would have beaten Burnley today? 100%, yes, I do. Do I believe we would have beaten them as convincing as today? Probably not. But with regards to what we are seeing, it is very exciting times. It's exciting times that we've got a manager that's actually communicating with the fans, and not only communicating with the fans, but actually delivering to the fans already on what the fans actually want and what the fans expect from a Palace team. A lot of the Palace fans, the diehard fans, want to see Crystal Palace having a go and trying to win every single game of football. And I haven't got a problem with that. My biggest gripe is if we go and try and do this against one of the bigger teams and we take a thumping, we need to take that thumping on the chin and we need to stay focused on the project. And I just think that it's none of this has surprised me as a Crystal Palace fan. Roy Hodgson was never the guy that I expected to deliver what Crystal Palace are hoping to achieve long term. I've always said it. He is a stability man. He's there to keep you in the league. He's there to work with the squad that he's got. And I think Roy's done a fantastic job. And I'm not a Roy out fan at all. The interesting things is Glasner was actually taken over at the end of the season. It has broke that he had already agreed to take over at the end of the season. He's obviously been asked to take the position now due to Roy's health. And I think that can be a positive thing because I think that it puts us in good stead for having a good start next year as opposed to having to start from fresh. He's going to put things in place. He's going to get them players working towards the targets that he wants next year. And hopefully we can start next year, the way that I anticipate us finishing this year. He's a proven winner. He is a proven winner and he is a manager that wants to play attacking football. Some of the comments that he made to the fans, that one of his attributes and one of the things that he expects goals. He expects his teams to score goals. He said, no child used to play football and want to go on a pitch to defend. They wanted to score a goal and celebrate with their friends, and the fans want to see goals. So it's an interesting times for us because I've always said that we've got the players to do it when they're fit. When we've got our full team, I believe we can give any team a good game. The interesting factor is now, and I think this is where this manager's been a little bit fortunate, is the two new players that we've brought in. He's had no say in them two players at all. And these are two players that are giving us the opportunity to play the way that Glasner wants to play. I think they've been very, very pinnacle in the 2 games that they've been there. I think they've both been solid. I think they're both very, very good additions to the team. And I think they help that formation tick. But what it does look like we're going to see from Palace moving forward is you're going to see a 3-4-3 that transitions during the game to a 5-2-3 or a 5-4-1 during certain matches. And I'm really looking forward to the future, really, and hopefully it's going to be as exciting as it's looking so far. But let's not get carried away. It's one game. It is Burnley, and I'm very interested to see how we shape up against Tottenham.
Doc, I've got a question for you from Tabrice. Now, I'm not going to say anything. P's not going to say anything, and I'm not going to let Dan say anything. Doc, this is only for you. Putting league positions aside, are Palace the worst team in London in the Premier League? Now, I've not made the comment. Dan hasn't made the comment. P hasn't. It's Tabrice. But only you, Doc, can answer that one for me. What's your opinion on that comment?
It's just laughable, isn't it, really? I mean, what else do I have to say? Just look at the person that spoke the comment and it says everything you need to know. At the end of the day, what do you gauge? The most ironic thing is, was we the worst team in the league last year when we was finishing above Chelsea? No, we wasn't. Was we the worst team last year when we finished above West Ham? No, we wasn't. So what do you gauge as the worst team? So, I'll leave it at that, really.
Moving on slightly a little bit. Hodgson, does he stay in football? Is that done now? Do we think that the time has come for Hodgson to, especially with his health, obviously, Doc, you're more aware of it and you can speak more eloquently on it than any of us can. But I will start with Pat P first. What's happening with Hodgson? Do you think he's coming back, or?
For me, I think you have to look at obviously the circumstances that he went out. For me, he doesn't come back into football. But what I will say is, what a career he's had, and I think now is the time that he realised that he needs to spend time with his family and kids and whatnot. So for me, he doesn't come back. But what I will say is, Roy Hodgson, you had a fantastic career.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, there's not really much to say that P didn't cover then, to be honest. I think he's quite a disrespecting manager, perhaps doesn't get the credit that he's deserved, possibly with how the whole England fiasco ended. But yeah, what a career and what a man as well. Whenever you kind of see an interview with Roy Hodgson, you always kind of get the impression that not only he's a really intelligent guy in terms of football, but he also seems a really decent man as well, yeah. I don't know the ins and outs of his health issues, but yeah, he needs to retire, call it a day, and look after himself.
Yeah, and Doc, with Hodgson, what's your opinions on him and feelings?
Well, first and foremost, it was great news that came out of the club today that he's out of hospital and he's at home recovering. So that's the first and foremost, because I don't like to chuck the term legend around too much, but with regards to what he's achieved in football, there's not many men that can say that they've achieved what he's achieved in football. So his record and what he's achieved over such a long career, I think the biggest compliment that you can give the man is he's still getting a Premiership job at his age. So that is the biggest compliment that you can give. With regards to him retiring, I think realistically he needs to retire. If he's one of these managers that can't walk away from the game, and if he's one of these managers that literally wants to leave everything on the field, I will respect that decision, but I think he needs to go into an advisory position so that he stays in the game, maybe help at a certain club. I just don't think he's cut out for the management. The pressure on managers nowadays is just far too much. You've seen that with Klopp this year. And at his age, with his health deteriorating, I actually did see, or what I believe, signs of his ill health against Liverpool and his interview after the Liverpool game. He actually looked like a manager that was struggling, and it wasn't nice to see. I also think the fans have played a massive, massive part on his health deteriorating. He's not used to having fans turn on him at most clubs he's been at. I don't think he's enjoyed it. I just think he deserves to enjoy his life. So whatever he chooses to do, I wish him all the best. And I can't thank him enough for what he's done for my club.
Now, lastly, just before we move on to the subject, obviously this is big news with Palace now changing to Glasner. I can't remember his name. It keeps slipping my mind. It's something like that. I do apologise. But is there any other passing comments that we need to say more about Palace and Glasner? Is it Glasner? I'm going to go with Glasner. It might not be Glasner, but I'm going for it. Big P, any other statements for it? Or
no, I think we'll see what he's made of in the next couple of weeks, to be honest with you. Obviously, they've got Spurs next week, so we'll see what he's like then. We'll see what Palace are going to bring to that.
Dan?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they adapt with the bigger tests. They're not always going to be playing a struggling Burnley. We're bottom of the league every single week. It'll be interesting to see. I think Palace might be onto something with Glasner. I think he's one of them where he's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. Done really well at Frankfurt. We'll see.
And then obviously Doc, is there any other? I mean, let's be fair. It's hard to judge him on his first game. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to judge that. But yeah, Doc, is there any other comments we need to?
Yes, I just want to tell you a little bit about the guy, just for people that aren't familiar with him. So his first two clubs was his first two clubs as manager was two clubs that he actually played for as a player, which was in the Austrian league. The first club he was at was SV Ried. He'd done a very good job there, and he ended up getting a job with Lask, which is another team that he used to actually play for. He actually took Lask from Division 1. He won promotion to the Premier League in Austria, which was the first time in the club's history. He's delivered at the club. He then moved on to Wolfsburg in Germany. He actually delivered European football twice in 2 years for Wolfsburg. After that, he then went on to Frankfurt. At Frankfurt, he actually won the European trophy 2 years ago, beating Barcelona, West Ham in the semi-finals, Rangers in the final. So this guy...
Just quickly, Doc, with European trophy, which Europa?
Yeah, the Europa League, yeah. So this guy, he knows what it takes to be a winner. So I'm quite shocked that when you look at the caliber that he's bringing and you're looking at the style that he's bringing, I'm quite shocked that there hasn't been a bigger club than Crystal Palace that has taken a punt on him. Because I generally could be the next.
There you go. The Wi-Fi cut. You're back now.
Can you hear me?
So the last bit.
Did I lag out? Sorry. Yeah. And I was just saying that I just think this manager is going to be a special manager. I think, regardless of whether it's with us or his next job, if he gets poached by a bigger club, I think you're going to see big things from this manager in the future.
Yeah. Now, results out of the way. Now let's look at some future fixtures. We've got Wolves and Sheffield coming up. I think that's quite an easy one for Wolves, especially at home at the Molineux. I think Sheffield, they just haven't been it, have they, this season? Like but we didn't expect nothing higher. Well, don't know about you guys, but I definitely didn't. P, what's your thoughts on this fixture coming up?
For me, I think Wolves ran away with it. I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 or 4-0 to Wolves. Sheffield United probably haven't hit the heights that they were expecting. Change of manager in Chris Wilder, they haven't got the performances under him either. For me, their fate is all but sealed. I think they're just there to be whipping boys of the league. I'm sorry to say, Sheffield United fans, but it's the truth.
Yeah, Dan?
Yeah, can't see anything other than a Wolves win, to be fair. Probably a heavy defeat again for Sheffield United.
Doc?
I think it will be a Wolves win. I don't think it's going to be a heavy defeat. I think the boys are being slightly harsh. I think, the last game that they had, obviously, when one of their players decides to do ABH on a player quite early in the game and get a red card, it's going to cost the team. I generally think that,
APH.
well,
And about that Mason Holgate tackle.
Yeah, absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. How he didn't get arrested. How he didn't get arrested for that one is beyond me. But anyway,
brilliant tackle.
They can keep 11 on the pitch and keep things a little bit solid. I think it'll be a bit closer than you might think. I'm predicting a 2-0 win Wolves. So that's how close.
Whoa, don't we save our predictions? We have got predictions up later. Moving up next, P, I'll save you till last because it is West Ham. Doc, I'll move to you first on this one. West Ham and Brentford. Is it going to be easy for one of the teams, or do you think it's going to be quite a clash?
West Ham are a funny one at the moment. Obviously, for me, I think their form was dipped with the uncertainty around Moyes, and I think it's played a massive part. It seems like that uncertainty has been put to a rest to a certain degree. He has now been offered a contract, so at least the fans know where the club's stance is. I think the players will now have to assume that he's going to sign that contract, and I think the players owe the fans a performance. They haven't seemed to have given them one the last few weeks. Brentford, obviously, with the return of Tony, we know that they're a goal threat, and West Ham are looking a little bit fragile at the back in stages. But for me personally, I don't see it being an easy game for neither of them.
Yeah. Dan, what's your thoughts on this fixture?
Bit of a difficult one to call, to be fair. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, I don't endorse betting. Do not do it, guys. I think it'll probably be a draw. When we have a look at the point return over the last 5 games, I think West Ham have 2 points out of the last possible 15, and I think Brentford might have 3. So yeah, there's really not much in it over the course of the last 5. Obviously, Ivan Toney back for Brentford is a big plus. Brian Mbeumo back from the AFCON. So yeah, we'll see. Pressure's on, really. I know there's talk of the new contract and whatever for David Moyes, but they just seem to be a little bit in the mud a little bit at the moment. Obviously, P will be hoping they can turn it around. But we'll see. Hard one to call.
Now, finally, the closing statements from the man himself, the West Ham fan in all this. Pete, what's your feelings going into this Brentford game?
I'm worried, mate, to be honest. Our performances haven't been great. We went to Forest last weekend and we were absolutely dire, if I'm honest. That's a polite way of putting it. We got beat 2-0 up there. I think the loss of Paqueta has been massive for us, and there's no time on when he's going to be back. He keeps getting setback after setback in training. As Doc and Dan touched on, there is a contract on the table for Moyes. Has he signed it? No, he said he's not going to sign it till the end of the season, so I hope he doesn't sign it, personally. But, yeah, for me, I think it's a good way to send everyone asleep on a Monday night, if I'm honest. It will be a tight game. I'll probably say that we'll edge it, but we're so vulnerable at the back, mate, that Tony will probably have a field day at the same breath. Do you know what I mean? So we'll wait and see, but it'll be a tight game. We'll be close.
Yeah. Now, moving on to what I would class as the game I'm most looking forward to, the Cup final. It is between Chelsea and Liverpool. We were going to do a combined 11, but unfortunately we are running out of time today. So that will be a video that may be getting posted midweek. If anyone is interested, let us know in the comments below. Dan, I'll leave you second to last, or actually I'll leave you last actually on this one. P, what's your feelings going into, not your feelings, but how do you feel it's going to turn out with this? And be careful what you say before you get
for me, it's a good game of football to watch, I suppose, but you're going to get a Chelsea side that you just don't know what Chelsea side's going to turn up. 1 minute they're great, next minute they're dire. Do you know what I mean? I can't see anything but a Liverpool win, if I'm honest, Bill. I'm sorry to say. But it will be close. I'm not saying they're going to run away with it, but I just think looking at Liverpool's fixtures coming up, they've got Europe to juggle. Could Klopp make a few changes? He might well do with the injuries that he's got as well. So it might play into Chelsea's favour. But at this present minute, I can't see anything but a Liverpool win, mate, unfortunately.
Doc?
Well,
For fuck's sake.
Well, honestly speaking, I think it will be a Liverpool win. However, I think that this is the worst team that Liverpool could possibly play in the cup final, because I think Chelsea is that sort of team that if they're gonna pull one big performance out between now and the rest of the season, this could be that one. And Chelsea is that sort of team, and obviously this could be their way into Europe. So I think Potts will be aware of that, and I think he's getting Liverpool at a good time with regards to injuries and stuff like that as well. So I do believe Liverpool are there for the taking. I just think that if they play with the sort of players that I think they're going to play, i.e. Salah starting, I think they'll have just enough to edge it. But one thing I do want to say is it better not be a boring 1-0 or 0-0, because no one wants to see that.
Quickly, just moving on to a few comments before we get mine and Daniel's opinion on this. Username lol has decided to come in and say the game will be closer than you think. Obviously, this going back to the West Ham one, I still think West Ham will pull away with a win. Moving on to this one from them as well. I am a Liverpool fan. I think it will be close because Chelsea have been doing things lately, but Liverpool beat Chelsea 4-1 in the Premier League not long ago. Should be a win for Liverpool, in my opinion. I'm going to say my piece now. I feel like Chelsea slander has happened. It's been going on too long. We need to take a break from it, and then Dan will obviously come back with some more Chelsea slander. But we need a little break in between. I'm 50-50 on it. Like Doc said, if there's one team to be absolutely abysmal in the league and then go win a trophy, it is probably Chelsea Football Club. Do you know, we that's what we do. We are absolutely appalling, but we win. So yeah, that's getting me a bit excited. If we didn't play Liverpool at Anfield a couple of weeks ago and get absolutely played off the park, well, we weren't even on the park to begin with, then I'd feel a lot more comfortable going into this. But it's a tough one. You know, Chelsea haven't had a great track record against Liverpool at Wembley. You know, the last two finals we played against Liverpool, we've lost both of them onto penalties. So as long as it doesn't go to penalties, it's a convincing start from Chelsea. I just pray that we do something, because I can't. This season has been jank to begin with, and I just something would be nice.
Just before Dan gives his opinion, though, I just want to say that for once I can sit back, relax, watch a game of football with the beauty of it's a win-win for me. Chelsea lose, I rip Bill a new one. Liverpool lose, I rip Tabrice a new one. Beautiful. What a perfect Sunday.
Quickly, just Dan as well. I've just read this quote for Tabrice, so I'm definitely going to be reading this one out. Chelsea to win 100% for the most fans at Wembley, and then goes on to say Liverpool are going to destroy Chelsea 4-1. And then lol. I think the Chelsea fans are getting too overconfident with this game. Can't believe Chelsea can win something like this after their poor performance for the 22-23 season and the 23-24 season. The man of the hour, Dan Allen himself. What are you feeling going into this?
Yes.
No, enough about that, Dan. Swiftly moving on.
Confident. Obviously, given the fact that we played you a few weeks ago at Anfield, we kind of got the measure of you then. We had a few key players missing. You know, Salah was away with Egypt. We had a few others missing out. Trent didn't start. Conor Bradley was absolutely magnificent in that game. I think he'll play a big role in how the game pans out again tomorrow. I'll be more confident tomorrow when I see the lineup. I know at the moment Salah's a doubt, Szoboszlai's a doubt, and so is Nunes. Trent's missing, Alisson is missing. If we line up with Salah, we line up with Sobo and Nunes, then yeah, I'll be really, really confident. But we'll see. Cup finals do funny things, but yeah, Klopp seems to have the knack when it comes to beating Chelsea when there's a trophy up for grabs. He's done it in the Super Cup, done it in the FA Cup and the League Cup already. So yeah, let's run it back, baby.
Now, let's swiftly move on, please, because I'm getting quite upset now. We are going to talk about only a quick one, just our predictions that we're going to go through quickly. Start with Pete, then Dan, then Doc. First game that we've already discussed them, but now our actual official predictions are going to be put out on the live stream for us to be embarrassed next week when we get them wrong. P, what's your prediction on this?
I'm going with a 4-0 Wolves, mate. I think it's going to be convincing. I think they're going to run away with it.
Dan?
I'm going to go 2-1 Wolves.
Doc?
I've gone 2-0 Wolves.
And myself, I'm going to go with a 3-0. I just don't see Sheffield even getting a goal, if I'm honest with it. Moving on to the next one. P, West Ham, Brentford.
I can't go against my side, can I? I'm going to go with a sticky 1-0 win to West Ham.
Dan?
Sorry, P, but I just got a feeling you're going to fall to that Ivan Toney Juju. I'm going to go 1-0 Brentford, Ivan Toney.
Doc?
Well, I'm sick to death of Big P ringing me up crying. So I'm going 2-1 West Ham. And I'm hoping that I can bring him a bit of luck. Honestly, every morning I wake up and it's honestly the voicemails. Oh, wow. So 2-1 West Ham for me.
Yeah. It's West Ham at home, but you can't even give that in favour when they lose 5-0 at their home ground.
But Dan, you're not taking into account that they're massive, mate. They are massive.
And also take into account that we were playing Arsenal.
Well, we can add that context if you want. I'm probably going to go 2-1 Brentford. I do think it is going to be a tough battle between the pair of them, but I do think that Brentford are just going to get that upper hand with Tony. Now, yeah, what's our actual score predictions on the Chelsea-Liverpool matchup? P?
I'm going to go Chelsea 1, Liverpool 3.
Doc?
In an ideal world, I'd like to see them both lose on penalties. That would be lovely. But I'm going 2-1 Liverpool, I'm afraid. 2-1 Liverpool.
Dan?
1-0 Liverpool, I think. Don't think it'll be the most exciting game. Virgil van Dijk with a bullet header.
Oh, lovely. Really looking forward to that one.
I've
really sold it, Anna.
Yeah.
I've got to back my club.
Hooray!
I'm going to go with a 1-0 win to Chelsea. I think I agree with Dan. I don't think it's going to be that entertaining of a game. It never really is between Chelsea and Liverpool. So, yeah, and especially in the cup final as well, they're both going to be preserved, trying to get it on. Now, obviously, we have slightly run over an hour, but that is fine because we are on to the last segment of the show, which is Big P and his. Well, P, I'll let you explain it to the audience. What have you got lined up?
So I've got a mystery player lined up. I'm going to give you 3 clues about this one player, and we will reveal the answer next week in the show. If you can leave your comments who you think the player is, if you can leave your comment who you think the player is in the comments below, that'd be perfect. And I'll also return next week to see if you're correct. So my first clue is he received an MBE in 2000. My second clue is his 2 boys have played the professional game of football. And my third clue is he's scored 185 goals for one club. Who do you think it is? Please leave your comment in the below.
Now, the 3 clues will be in the outro video to this. So if any of you didn't hear that or want to hear it again, you can just read the comment or read the clues at the end of the show. So, Doc, have you got any more closing statements before we head off?
Have we got enough time to do our predictions for next week if we keep it very, very brief with just the scores?
With what lined up? Like what? When you say next week, as in what all our next week's fixtures?
Yeah, so there's 7 games next week. I believe that Dan's got them written down. Have you, Dan?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
So we've got 7 games. Can we just have a quick fire round with our predictions just to keep it a bit more interesting for next week?
Dan, take it away then.
Yeah, so we're going to run like a mini predictions league just amongst the 4 of us. 3 points for the correct score, 1 point for the correct result. We're just going to base it off the Saturday Premier League fixtures every week so we can kind of review it, have a laugh at each of us' expense every week, and something maybe the viewers can get involved with as well. So first off, Newcastle United versus Wolves. Bill, what we saying?
Newcastle at home to Wolves.
Yep.
2-1 Wolves.
Oh. Pete?
2-1 Wolves.
Doctor?
I'm going 2-1 Newcastle.
I'm going to go 2-1 Wolves.
Yeah.
P, next one is first team always at home. Spurs versus Crystal Palace.
Do you know what? I'm going to upset the apple cart here. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Crystal Palace.
You know it makes sense. You know it makes sense.
Bill?
I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw.
Okay, Doc?
I've gone 2-1 Palace.
I'm going to dampen the mood and go for a ball draw 0-0.
Wow.
Forest and Liverpool. This is it. The City ground. I'll start first. I'm going to go Liverpool to win 754-0. I'm going to go 4-0 Liverpool.
Against
Doc?
who?
It's at Forest.
I've gone 4-1 Liverpool.
Bill?
I think you lot got to give some more respect to Forest at their home ground. You know, Forest away isn't the easiest of fixtures that we've seen in the Premier League. I'm only going to go with I'm going to go with a 2-0. I don't think it's going to be an absolute whitewash.
Pete?
5-0 Liverpool.
Forest. Then we got Brentford versus Chelsea at Brentford. Bill, I'll start with you as the Chelsea fan.
Fuck this. Can you leave me till last? I've got to think about this. This is a tough one.
Pete?
2-1 Brentford.
Doc?
I hope P's right. I've gone 1-1.
I'm going to go Chelsea just. They'll be up for it after getting whooped in the cup final. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea.
Why you got to bring it up, there, man? No, I'm gonna go with a 2-0 Chelsea. It's convincing. Brentford getting smacked.
Fair dues. Everton West Ham at Goodison Park. Big P will come to you, being the West Ham fan.
I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here, Dan.
Nice. Would you be happy with that?
Everton fighting for their lives. Probably say so. Yeah. Point away from home is always a good point, isn't it?
Doc?
Want to keep Everton underneath us in the league in an ideal world. So I'm going West Ham 2-1.
Yeah. Bill?
I'm gonna go with an Everton win, and I'm gonna go with a 1-0.
I'm going to go 1-0, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go West Ham. Everton, to me, seem like they can't buy a goal, to be quite honest. And if they do, they get deducted points for it. So, yeah, 1-0 West Ham. Moving on, we'll go Fulham. Brighton. This is at Fulham. Bill, we'll start with you.
I'm going 3-0 Fulham.
Ooh.
Nice to give your local rivals a bit of credit for once. Fair play.
Yeah, the Craven Cottage has been nuts this season. It has been. And Brighton ain't been the team of last. So, yeah.
Big P?
I'm going for a 3-2 Fulham.
All for Fulham. Doc?
2-1 Fulham.
You know what? Just to kind of break away from you guys in the little mini prediction league, I'm going to have to go against the apple cart. I'm going to go Brighton 2-1. And then finally, the best stadium in the Premier League, Kenilworth Road, Luton versus Villa. Bill?
A lot of teams have struggled there this season.
Mm.
I'm going to go with 2-1 Luton.
Yep. Doc?
I've gone 3-1 Villa.
I'm going to go 2-0 Villa. And Big P, to wrap it up?
I've gone 3-1 Villa as well.
Nice. Bill, over to you.
So that is the predictions done for next week's show. So I'm definitely going to be caught out for being awful with my ball knowledge, but that's fine. I'm here to ramble on. That's what we're all here to do. P, is there any closing statements before we head off?
No, thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you to the guys. It's been a pleasure.
Dan?
Stick with us. This is only episode 1. So, yeah, tune in next week. And, yeah, Don't do anything Doc wouldn't do.
And Doc?
Yeah, I think Dan summed it up nicely. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, we will see you again next week. There is going to be a few twists and turns along the way, just like the actual football season itself. We have got a few little ace cards up our sleeves, so you never know what we might pull out of the bag. So thanks again, and don't do anything I wouldn't do.
And on that note, everyone, take care. Have a good one.